Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, my guest, Kasey Koop.
Me. Don't I have such a catchy fake name?
You do. It's a great name.
But is that your real name? Like your real full, or is Jay short for something?
Jay is short for Jerry. My real name is
Jerry
Jerry
Light's
Thomas
cute,
Light
too.
III.
Oh, that's rad. But Jay Light's really it's like succinct, kind of like Kasey Koop is short for Kasey Koopenbender.
Yeah.
So it's very it's snappy.
And it rolls off. Do people, this happens to me a lot where they call me the first and last name. It's like, oh, Jay Light. Does that happen to you? Oh,
What do you
Kasey
mean,
Koop.
like in casual conversation?
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah. I think when I was doing comedy more, maybe because we walk around as our brands in comedy, it's like, that's them. But when I'm with friends, they're just like, Kasey.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like the most name I get called is my fake stripper name. And I respond, I don't even question it anymore. That's just who I am now.
Yeah.
Is that name. And only once in my over 3 years of stripping have I accidentally introduced myself as Kasey, which I just started laughing and I told him, I'm like, sorry, that was my real name. And I think he was shocked by my honesty. I was like, whoops.
Did he tip you better or worse, you think, because of that?
I don't remember. I don't think he bought a dance or anything. So
He didn't buy any dances, no?
I think he was just there,
Oh, man.
witnessing my crumbling apart.
You're the crack in your facade. Oh, man.
I know. He saw it.
He probably felt
I need to go
bad,
send out
probably.
a hitman to him now.
Yeah,
Get him out of here.
We got to take him down. It's not good.
He knows too much.
He does know too much. Thanks for coming on today. So glad to have you. Kasey and I go way back.
I know.
We met. I think the first show I ever did in Los Angeles, you were also on
Really?
at
Is it
Flappers.
Flappers?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have fond memories there. Especially the tiny room, the
Yoo-hoo room.
Because that's one of the most fun rooms to do comedy in. It's just so intimate. It's like you and your friends in your bedroom at home.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very intimate, and I like the way the laughs
They stay honed in.
Yeah.
I like a good intimate room. It's very good for comedy.
It's like infectious laughter in that room.
Well, you've come on today to talk about a movie that you hate, as every guest does, and you got to pick. We're doing a couple episodes in a row like this. A movie that I really, really enjoyed is.
I'm gonna walk out of this. I can't believe you fucking liked it.
Ingrid Goes West.
Leave. I'm leaving. Yeah, Ingrid Goes West. It was the worst movie I've ever fucking seen. It was
that's high disdain.
I don't even see. This was a couple months I watched it, but all I remember of it, because I'm sure I blocked it out of my mind, was just overall, I felt nothing toward any of the characters, and I feel like with any good show or movie, I feel invested in the characters. You either like or hate them, or somewhere in between, or feel passionately. I felt disdain and distaste for everyone and everything about the movie. That's all I really remember.
That's also how I felt about these characters, but I liked it.
But you got a kick out of it.
I got a kick out of it.
I mean, sometimes someone on screen is so unlikable that it's funny or disturbing or anger-inducing, but I just felt ugh.
Well, okay, so if you haven't seen Ingrid Goes West, and you might not have because it was a little bit of a limited release, 2017 American black comedy film starring Aubrey Plaza, Elizabeth Olsen, Billy Magnuson, Wyatt Russell, Palm Clementine, and O'Shea Jackson Jr., Lil Ice Cube, and follows a young woman who moves to Los Angeles in an effort to befriend her Instagram idol.
Now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
The parts that I blocked out.
Won the Screenwriters Award at the Sundance Film Festival, received positive reviews, grossed $3 million, critically acclaimed, and yet.
Critically? Who are the critics?
It's got an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes.
What? What?
Statler and Waldorf.
Wait, how much did he get on Rotten Tomatoes?
It got an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's high.
It was.
What?
And it got a lot of. It won Best First Feature at the Independent Spirit Awards. It got nominated for a bunch of other stuff.
You know what it is? You know what I say? Let me put my big fat feminist foot down and say these are men judging the movie, and this movie's about girls being catty and Instagram stalking one another, and men love women hating women. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Whew. All right, there's a take we can go from right there.
Because it was all about Ingrid, played by Aubrey Plaza,
Yep.
who, okay, now I'm fucking remembering. She Instagram stalks Elizabeth Olsen's character.
Right.
And let me just say, I have a huge girl crush on Elizabeth Olsen. So I
She's
wanted
fantastic.
to like this movie. I think she's just fucking gorgeous, and she is fun to watch. I actually thought she nailed her character really well. But the girl Aubrey plays, like, what? She follows her on Instagram.
Right.
And like, is envious of her or something?
Yeah, and this is already after coming off of it. The very opening sequence of the movie is Aubrey Plaza going to a wedding of another girl who she was, it seems like, stalking on Instagram.
So she's kind of like a girl stalker.
Yeah, and she seems, she gets committed to a mental institution, and there's other stuff. There's like stuff involving her mom dying, and there's other things that like lead you to believe that there's some triggers to some sort of mental break.
So she's not very mentally sane, and she gets latched to these shiny, bright women that maybe she follows online, like Elizabeth Olsen, who is like, now that I'm remembering, is one of those lifestyle bloggers, which are so hot right now on Instagram. But I only follow one girl who's like that, but only because she's actually my friend in real life. But oh God, first of all, lifestyle bloggers. Ugh.
That's the thing I really enjoyed about this movie, is that it took an angle, and it's the first time I've ever seen I think it's a good piece of satire, because it takes that whole like influencer, lifestyle blogger type of person, and it goes like, hey, this is how fucking easy it is to become one of these people.
Like they kind of skewer it. Like they really hit the nail on the head with Elizabeth Olsen, the way she hashtags and her, her big floppy hat photos and cactus and Palm Springs and cute.
Yeah.
And they actually did nail that. And I thought that was really funny. And I liked the way they just perfectly depicted this LA lifestyle blogger girl who came from another. It's so funny, actually. The end of the movie, it reveals like Elizabeth Olsen's character, like originally was one of those like sorority girls from a small town, like was a transplant to LA, and then became this like LA like West Side thing.
Like Cafe Gratitude.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, the other J in comedy,
Weingarten?
Yes, why was I blanking his name? It feels so bad. He was in the movie. I just remember that.
Wait, he was?
He played the waiter at Cafe Gratitude.
Oh my God, yeah.
Shouts out to Jay,
Shouts
who
out
I
Jay
love,
Weingarten.
but I'm sorry I hated this fucking movie.
So, all right, so the biggest complaint you have about this movie, which I think, again, totally valid, though we have very different interpretations of it, is that nobody in this movie is likable.
Yeah, and sometimes that's fun, but I feel like I just had so much disdain. I'm like, I don't want to look at these people anymore. Also, you know what I'm realizing? I think it was all Aubrey Plaza's character, and she was the protagonist, that I just fucking couldn't stand. I hated so much. It was like I think maybe the movie was trying to like skewer that whole social media girl, because I think she copies Liz Olsen, like introduces herself to her, like low key doesn't tell her she's a stalker or anything, and then becomes friends with her and like copies her. And I think like it just rubbed me the wrong way, because I just probably I've just heard people make fun of like social media so much. Like they make fun of Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I get it. There are parts of all of those that I get annoyed by, but I personally have benefited so much from social media that sometimes I just get sick of the constant criticism of it. I'm like, it's not all bad. It's not all fake. I think everyone thinks that it's a fake brand, maybe because they themselves have a fake brand,
and that's what they're putting themselves out as.
And then they get jealous of the people who do really well at it. And I personally don't find my quote unquote brand, or whatever word you want to use, I don't find it fake at all. It's just me expressing myself, because I'm an expressive, colorful person, and it shows on social media well. I think.
I think so. I enjoy your social media. I follow you on the platforms.
I love it. And then I don't have to like interact with people face to face. Is the best thing ever. But I think like they're just showing this like weirdo girl who's then morphs herself into the cool brand girl. And I was just annoyed because I feel like that's what everyone thinks social media is like all I hear is people say, it's fake. Our lives aren't really like this. And it's like, well, not everyone who is good on social media is fake.
Right.
I feel like that's what everyone thinks it is. And it's just like a big criticism of it. And I'm like, okay, we get it. You guys all think it's fake because you're being fake.
Right. Well, now it's really interesting. I think that there's, especially I think the backlash against social media has started to come down in maybe the last 2 or 3 years.
I noticed that
at all.
even the last year, maybe.
Well, especially the last year has been crazy because of all the backlash that's going against YouTube stars and people who and Facebook as a platform in general. There's all this sordid shit that's coming out about like people, the data mining and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all the stuff, with Logan and Jake Paul.
That's not good. Oh, yeah.
That's all. It's this whole other thing that's, I guess, it's probably been a long time coming to a level of people being like, wait a minute, something's kind of off about this whole way people portray themselves and what they're doing. But that's the thing. Not all social media is bad. And I say that as a social media curmudgeon. Like, Are
you secretly or not so secretly?
I mean, I use Instagram and Twitter, and I don't really use Facebook that much anymore.
Yeah, Facebook's kind of fallen to the wayside. It's like, I'll do it, but do I really want to see like all my Republican relatives' opinions on my stripper posts? No, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I installed the newsfeed eradicator on Facebook. It's
what's that?
It's an extension you can get for Chrome and Firefox. Sponsor me, please, if you guys are interested. Newsfeed eradicator. If you're making any money,
Jay.
I need that money.
Me too. I'm broke, bitch.
But it takes anytime you log into Facebook. It shows your newsfeed first thing, right? So it takes all of that away, and it just shows the status box, and then it shows in a very common social media moment an inspirational quote.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's actually great because, like, for a long time there, I just wouldn't scroll down on the newsfeed. Like, I'd see the first few things and I'd just go away, like, to my profile or whatever, because scrolling down gets you in a lot of anger, a lot of self-righteous anger for me.
And me too. That's why, and that's the thing. I would scroll down and I would get sucked into Facebook rabbit holes.
That's
and
how I used to
read
be with
everybody's
Twitter.
opinions.
And I try not to. I don't scroll down. There was like a year or two where I really wasn't even scrolling down on Twitter. Now I do a little more because there's some really interesting articles and a lot to keep up with. But yeah, I had to kind of stop indulging in the feeds for a while. And I think that's why, okay, making this full circle, kind of back to the movie is over you know this about me. I've been sober 3 years now.
Yep.
And a big, well, I guess why I'm being so defensive about social media is that's one of my huge addictions. And you know this, not everyone does, but as an alcoholic / addict, that can latch on to anything. So the few things I have left now are like sugar, coffee, and social media. And I refuse to give them up. Although sugar's fucking up my yeast infections and my face and coffee is making me not sleep. So maybe I need to ease up on those. But so when I got sober, I just slowly the last couple of years, I've latched more onto Instagram because I used to be so involved in Twitter. I'd have these like invisible friends I'd talk to all over the country. We'd even text. I'd even send nudes. It was like this intense, like a simulated friendship and community. And sometimes even I would go to tweet ups when certain big tweeters were in town and we'd all get a DM and a bunch of us with followings. I don't even really have one on there anymore, but we'd meet up and actually it's kind of rad because these are like higher up people in the comedy world and television and movies. So actually it was good. It was cool because then I didn't have to go the usual open mic route with other open micers. I got to interact with people kind of ahead of me and
get that brand out there.
And who liked my work. But no, that whole simulated community, like it was very toxic. And that was, I was sick, you know?
Yeah.
So my Twitter addiction got so out of control with these weird communities. There'd be like drama between the peoples, and it was like, but it was all invisible. You don't see them in person.
Right. It's all, and it's just like it's the equivalent of making a conspiracy theory web map on a bulletin board where you're just like you're posting pictures and screen
like,
caps.
Who am I not allowed to fave their stuff anymore because so and so is mad at them? Like, this insane high school drama. So what ended up happening these last few years, I noticed, is I've latched more onto Instagram because Instagram doesn't ever make me mad or self-righteous anger or upset Generally speaking, it's just cute people doing cute stuff.
Yeah, I mean you hit the nail on the head.
And like I studied apparel design in college, so I follow a lot of like fashion designers and models, and for me that's just like my own side interest. So it makes me happy. It doesn't bring me pain. It's easy. I like seeing my friends happy. I like following interesting people. I don't know. I'm a very visual person because I studied fashion, so that's like I love it. It doesn't upset me. But yeah, so now I'm all into Instagram, and because of latching onto that and not having so much drama, then I guess that's where I have the biggest following now. It's just that's where I spend most of my time because it doesn't upset me. So then when I hear everyone like go off about, oh, Instagram's fake and these girls' face filters and their lifestyles and no one can be this happy in real life, I'm just like, what? Like, I don't interpret it like that. I also don't compare myself to people on there. And I know that's a big issue for people I know. Like people hate Instagram because they're like comparing their lives to other people's and it's coming up short.
Yep. That's an issue for me. I struggle with that.
And I'm not a fucking angel. Like I have my own flaws, my own insecurities, my own character defects, but Instagram doesn't really affect those. So I feel like this whole movie, going back to Ingrid West, is just like skewering Instagram girls and catty girls and stalker girls. Well, I have stalker guys. So why aren't we looking at the fucking stalker guys who send you 10 DMs in a row not responded to, who show up at my strip clubs uninvited, who are poking you on Facebook nonstop and faving 20 of your pictures in a row? Why don't we talk about the stalker guys?
Well,
it's like
because you can't make a fun, lighthearted comedy in LA about stalker guys.
Maybe you can.
If you could, please pull that off. I would love to watch that movie.
Yeah, he would just be lonely.
I think
in a basement.
Part of the thing, and as we talk about it more, it really is starting to make me realize the thing that I did like about this movie is that it speaks to a belief that I already have, that social media is a game to some degree. And I think
a lot of people think that, and it makes me mad.
Well, that's the thing, because that's the curmudgeon side of me saying that,
well,
right?
And also it's good you're telling me this because you're speaking for so many people that I hear, but yet I don't hear. I'm like, why do you all hate it so much?
Well, and that's the thing. I think that there's, at least for me, speaking solely from my perspective, I don't know if anybody else feels like this. If you do, hey, maybe hit me and Kasey up. We'll talk about it on the internet or something. But I think that there's a level of romanticization that we as comedians or performers and writers and artists have put out and want to be to have success sort of on our own terms. And I think that Instagram and Twitter and YouTube all are other elements that people have figured out and done better than us to some degree, and that it brings up so much jealousy that I wasn't able to do it first, or able to do it the way I wanted to.
And this is why, as I already briefly mentioned, why I love it so much, because as a woman in comedy, there's this pressure, right? And you know this as a guy in comedy, like to go to the open mic grind, go through the open mic grind for 5 to 10 years, and then you have to like muscle your way up through live performance. And as a woman, there's like, if there's a room of 50 people, there's like 5 girls maybe. And so it's set up for you to lose. And I've read a bunch of interviews with other female comics recently who also nailed it, where they talked about, they say like we should be able to make any room of people laugh, but if you're a woman at an open mic that's 95% male, they're either not going to laugh at you because like sometimes they'd look at me and they'd think I was cute, but then they resented that. So I'm not going to fucking laugh at her. Or they don't relate to the material about being a woman, or they don't want to relate. And it's just like this bullying thing in comedy because it's such a guys club. So that's why I love social media, and probably why comics hate it so much, is like, hey, it shortcut me into doing the writing stuff I want to do. I've gotten to be shot for big magazines, like photos, because of it. I mean, I would have never gotten that shit through open micing.
Right.
And you're right. Like, guys get jealous of that because they have this one route set up for us that we're supposed to follow. And of course, then we get followings on Instagram or whatever. And, that pays off in other ways. But
the thing is, and that's all such an old idea too. And that's why it's hard to let go of, because I think that there's a level of me now that is like, all right, I have to do this thing.
Social media. Because it's kind of like the podcast thing almost in comedy. Like,
Right.
okay, I have to have a podcast. I have to be active on Twitter. I have to go do a lot of shows and mics or produce one.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I feel like comics feel this pressure to do all that. I don't do stand up anymore. I'm like completely over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, completely. Because it just, I don't know, it just was a slow coming to terms. But very, very recently, I decided to completely stop.
Wow.
But there is a lot tied into comedy where you feel pressure. Like, I have to be writing one-liners on Twitter. And it's like, well, you don't have to be. Like, I think like some, the people who are really rising that we've known our whole time doing stand-up, like they're just really good on stage. Like you don't have to do all the things. Like you don't have to spread yourself thin. But I feel like comedians feel this pressure.
Right.
Like we have to overproduce and if you're not hosting a show and a podcast and being active online and making it funny. But I think if you're just good at like one of those things, I think that, and then you can pour all your energy into it, and I think it's better.
But it's hard. I know it's hard, at least for me, to want to be somebody who does just focus on one thing, and because then I'm afraid, what about all this other work that I put into so many other avenues, and then I find out it's not the one, and that's like a scary prospect. But it's also something that I'm coming to terms with now too. It's like, all right, I think that it's hard to accept as somebody who is like, I'm a stand-up for so many years, to have to be like, there's other things in this, that it's not just all about one avenue. And if I want to be somebody, if I want to get the kind of success as a artist where I feel fulfilled, I have to put myself out there in other ways.
Yeah,
that's all it's about.
Maybe like one or two of the venues, like say a podcast and Twitter, or a podcast and producing a show, or touring the road and Twitter. Like I feel like we have this pressure in stand up to do it all, but we're spreading ourselves thin. And what I've kind of learned through just, I guess, my own spiritual quest is like, I can't do something if it doesn't feel right to me. And to get in touch with what feels right to me, I have to be still. I have to be quiet. I have to be at peace. And when I was doing comedy all the time, I wasn't any of those things. I was just hitting the ground running. But it's like sometimes you're spinning your wheels. Like,
yeah.
I totally believe now, and I'm in like it's so wacky, but I feel like nowadays I'm in 100% belief that I stay true to my truth. And to me, that like what I'm really good at is print writing, like books and print. Like I'm good at one-liners. I'm good at joke writing. I would love to write for television, but like, why don't I do the thing that feels right? Because all this time, like sometimes it's easier to like be on the go than to sit quietly with your laptop and write a book. And that's what I'm working on now, is writing a book. But that's what feels right. But it took me a long time to get to, because I think we feel like if we don't do it all, we're gonna fail. But I think if we're overexerting ourselves and not just being quality in all the things we do, that's more of a recipe for failure, I guess.
And that's that's another easy addiction too, is to be addicted to work and to being busy.
Yes.
That's definitely one of the things, as a sober person as well, that's one of the things that I find myself getting caught up in a lot, is like, I have to be doing these things. I still have to be grinding it out all the time.
Yes.
And now I'm like, by the way, this episode has taken such
I was just thinking that, like, are we talking about the movie stuff?
Strange turn. But now I'm in this place where like I've been doing the artist way for the past couple months. I'm almost done. I'm on the last week.
I've talked to so many people who are doing it. Is it helpful?
It is. It's very helpful, because now I'm like, it gives you another map. Like there's a level of when you're starting out and doing 12-step work, that you learn a lot about yourself if you do the work thoroughly and fully. And the artist way is basically the same kind of deal, where it's like it's sort of mapped along the lines of a 12-step program, and you go and you adapt, and you have to learn and you have to confront things about yourself. And that's one of the things that I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm not going to be able to actually create at the level that I would like to if I'm working and trying to be like, oh, I have to do all these things or else my life is meaningless.
It's kind of like the same idea can apply to even something like Twitter. Like when I'll just speak to my own experience when I pressure myself to come up with tweets like, oh, I gotta, and this is something I don't do anymore, but I used to do back in my obsession with Twitter days was I gotta hit like 5 tweets a day or something. Like I have to do a couple tweets and they all have to be funny. And I would draft them and I'd edit them. And it's like I'm putting all this effort into tweets. And the best tweets I've ever had, and I think this is true for really anybody from what I've heard, is the ones that just come into your head when you're going about your day or doing your business, and it's not even trying. It's more about the art of capturing the thought before it flies out the left ear. Like, you know? And when we're like forcing it, they're not as funny. Like sometimes I'll glance through my Twitter feed. I'm like, all these comedians are like, what are you even saying? But if you just tweet a thought that flies naturally in your head, it's like way funnier. I found like they do way better because it's like not forced.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know. That's how writing is for me is like, yeah, I can set myself and get down and get myself in the discipline of doing it, but don't put too much pressure to make it be something.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, this actually ties back into the movie really well too, I think, because it's about capturing. I think the best stuff that I find is it's sort of in that same vein where it's like something that's real, that like it's a real thought that I don't have to gussy up too much, or a real like a moment that I'll put on an Instagram as a picture and be like, oh yeah, this is like a thing.
Not when I just
that I
want
enjoy.
likes.
Yeah.
When I want likes, it gets the least likes because I'm trying the hardest.
Right. And that's okay. So that's how the movie ends too, which is crazy.
Okay, let's talk about this because I think what fucking enraged me especially was the end of the movie. What a left field fucking what?
Yeah. So the end of the movie, Ingrid has basically destroyed her relationship with Elizabeth Olsen's character.
She's like co-opted that girl's life. It comes out that she was actually stalking her on Instagram the whole time and copying her.
Buys a house in Joshua Tree right next to hers that she can't afford, and like all of her
spends all her
amenities
dead
get
mom's
shut
money
out.
on it.
Yeah, and so then she goes to a Halloween party that she's throwing, and everything, and the friendship is basically like completely burned to the ground and left in the dust. And then she tries to kill herself.
She
but
tries,
before
like,
she
what
does,
a dumb dramatic end to this dumb movie. I hated it.
This is the Instagram description, not Instagram. This is the Wikipedia description of the last couple scenes of the movie. Bereft. Ingrid retreats to her home.
God.
Bereft. That's how the fucking sentence starts. Ingrid retreats to her home surrounded by lit candles and records a video for her Instagram page, confessing her loneliness before overdosing on pills. Ingrid survives the suicide attempt because Dan called emergency services. She wakes in the hospital to learn that her video has gone viral and thousands of strangers have responded to her hashtag I am Ingrid to show support. Feeling loved, Ingrid smiles.
Oh, what a horrible hacky. Did a man write this movie? Probably. Let's look.
Yes.
Oh, naturally.
2 men.
This is how they think the female experience of mental illness, jealousy, and social media goes. Because they're men and they're stupid and they don't know anything. I hate this fucking... So, I guess throughout the movie, I was like trying to gauge, do I like Ingrid?
Mm-hmm.
And I just never got there with her. I was like, okay, at first it's like, oh yeah, we relate to her being insecure, wanting to be something she's not. Yes, I think I definitely can relate to that from my early 20s. You know, you're trying to be cool. You move to LA, try to get cool clothes and go to rad parties and look cool on Instagram. And it's I get that. Okay, that's something I can connect with. But you follow her through the movie and she's just never likable. She's just like trying so hard to be the other girl, but it's not an even. Oh, and then she like, doesn't she use like the black guy like as a fake boyfriend?
She uses Little Ice Cube as a fake boyfriend and steals his truck.
Yeah,
and does all this like
she's just
fucked up stuff to him.
They make her look like a dumb bitch the whole movie, and at the end of the movie, she's an especially dumb bitch. She gets that house with all the rest of her dead mom's money and Joshua Tree to spy on the Elizabeth Olsen out in the desert. And then she's like, I'm going to kill myself. And it's like, okay, I know what it's like to go through your life with just so many suicidal thoughts, and where it's so loud and you just want to die and you're trying to overdose. And I've known so many women who've gone through that experience as well, or have had suicide attempts, like all of that business. I think I was just mad because I felt like the movie didn't depict at all what that's like. And it was sort of out of left field where it's like, oh, we understand Ingrid's like not well and she's jealous of the other girl and her mom died and she's doesn't have anybody. But I mean, really, to live tweet or whatever a suicide attempt and then everyone feels bad for her, I feel like that almost encourages like, oh yeah, like maybe because I have inner shame about Instagramming and tweeting my own like rock bottom years or something. Like, I guess I'm just like, that's not cool. And maybe I'm projecting that shame onto her. Like, why are we romanticizing her suicide attempt? And then she learns, oh, she can get so much validation from all these strangers for trying to kill myself. And I guess too, Jay, like being in recovery and shit, I just see certain women and people like just trying to get like mining the pity.
Right.
I'm trying to use my words carefully here, but it's unhealthy and it makes me angry. And it's like, we can't reinforce that.
And that's the thing. I don't think that ending does reinforce that that's good behavior to do to anybody but Ingrid. I hope nobody watched Ingrid Goes West and is like, oh man, she's so smart. Let's go for that.
No, it's not smart. It's like, oh, if I do this acting out behavior, I'm gonna go viral.
Yes.
I'm gonna get likes. I'm gonna get
that's more what I'm going for.
Get pity and messages of pity. I just felt like it was so, and it was not relatable. I mean, with the suicide stuff and knowing a lot of women and just knowing what that's like, it doesn't happen because you're jealous of some bitch. Like, it happens because of, I don't know, other stuff. The dots didn't seem connected. It did seem like a man's perspective on what the woman's experience is and not at all what the woman's experience is. Just knowing what fucking mental illness is like, and knowing so many women with mental illness and going through trauma and suicide and shit, just so much shit.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it didn't depict the woman's experience at all. It felt like very like contrived. Like, this is how they feel about stuff. Like, what?
And one of the things I usually ask around this point is there anything you think could have been done to make this movie better? And I think I know what your answer would be for this.
Don't make it or have a woman write what she thinks. That's like, I think there's a lot to be commented on in this world of like social media and how we depict ourselves and how we compare ourselves, get jealous. I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to be commented on. I just felt like this movie didn't do it accurately. It didn't feel like any woman I know's experience. And I have tons of friends who we get vulnerable, we get honest with each other, and they say like they compare themselves to people on social media. They'll take social media breaks because of it. Like, I know that's a lot of people's experience. I just felt like when men try to write out how women compare to each other and it felt so off. It felt so like dishonest. I don't know. It just felt really dishonest, and it didn't strike chords of relatability like I think if a woman had made the movie.
Hey, I mean, that's totally fair. That's fair. That's a fair and valid criticism, I would say.
It's sort of like how I always get mad, like that the strip club is always depicted as like through a man's eyes and like the background of some shady gangster movie, and that's it. Like, or on 30 Rock, Tina Fey like smack talking the strippers. You know, it's never from the stripper's perspective, which I think is so different.
Right.
And actually really fun and silly a lot of the time.
I mean, and that's something that you, in your own written work, that's something that you've depicted, and I think you do a really great job capturing that.
Yeah, I just want more women's point of view. Not like this distorted, like, this is how we think women think, like from a man.
Yeah, and now you're in the really good position of being somebody who can help shape that point of view.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
I believe in you, Kasey.
I'll keep trudging this.
You're doing great stuff already.
Thank you.
Is there anything movie-wise, since you didn't like Ingrid Goes West, anything you would recommend that somebody watch instead?
Oh, like a movie?
Yeah.
Like a good movie?
What's a movie you like?
Oh, like I'm trying to think of something I watched recently. Actually, a surprisingly funny movie. I was like shocked at how well written and funny it was Game Night. Didn't
I've
expect
heard
that.
great things about Game Night.
Yeah, really good writing and even the physical humor. All of it's funny as fuck.
I'll have to check
So
that
that
out.
was a good comedy. I will say about Ingrid Goes West, though, we did talk about it a little. I did love the little details of how they showed Elizabeth Olsen's whole life. Like, I loved that they made her a transplant who became the cool West Side girl. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen so many of those, and I've had my moments of that.
Oh yeah.
When I first moved to LA, just becoming so LA, because the boyfriend of Elizabeth in the movie was like, yeah, she's actually a sorority girl from what, like Minnesota or somewhere.
Something like that.
I think that's funny. I think that was very on point.
So LA, so on brand. Kasey, thanks so much for coming on today. This was such a strange and fun little discussion.
We went so on tangents, and I loved it.
Where can my listeners find your work?
It's at Kasey Koop on Instagram and Twitter. It's KaseyKoop.
Wonderful.
And I'll post my stuff there.
Find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for upcoming show dates. And these are all on YouTube now as well as on the iTunes things. So go watch it there if you want. Tell your friends if they don't have podcasting things. And or if you don't, just to go leave a review. Why don't you? Because I want to be better than the fucking Game of Thrones and Westworld recap podcasts. Because this is so much better.
This is so much more interesting.
So much more interesting. Kasey, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
This has been Blockbusting. Folks, go see something good for a change.